welcome back, South Carolina, to podcast 1854, South Carolina's fastest growing conservative podcast. Today, we're joined by Kizzie Smalls, who is running for District 77 House of Representatives here in South Carolina. Miss Kizzie, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate the opportunity. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what got you to where you are today?
Okay, well, actually, I never really saw this taking place, but it did. But I was born and raised in Conway, South Carolina.
Okay.
To single parents at the time. Let's see. Growing up in that life actually led me to, it built character in me. So even though I know some people are wondering how I got to Columbia, South Carolina, but I used to actually come every summer.
Okay.
Every summer. Like I said, growing up with my mother, she did allow me to come and play with my cousins every summer. So Columbia became my second home.
That's right.
I ended up graduating from Georgetown High School.
Okay.
And tried to move to Atlanta, Georgia one time, but it was too fast for me, so I came back.
It is.
Came back to South Carolina. I love South Carolina. Actually moved to Columbia in 2016.
Okay.
So let's see. I'm currently employed with Intermark Management as a field compliance specialist. That job requires me to do some training. I actually do tax credit training.
Okay, and that's statewide, or how does that work?
Yes, well, we have properties in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia,
Oh, okay.
and Tennessee. So I work with the property managers.
Yeah.
I do have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually started out, it was political science, but after moving to Columbia in 2016, I was at USC, and it was too much for a working parent, so I ended up switching to Limestone College.
Okay.
So I can finish up my degree, and they didn't have political science, so I ended up graduating with my criminal justice degree.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm working on my Juris Master's degree, my JM for American Legal Studies.
Okay.
Got about 4 classes left in that, and
I bet that's keeps you busy.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Working on a legal degree, it is a lot. So I really understand what our lawyers go through.
Yeah.
I got about 4 classes left. I had to take a break so I can campaign. But other than that, I plan to go back and probably take one class at a time so I can complete that degree.
Yeah, and I imagine that's going to help a lot, like seriously understanding even better the process, when you get elected in District 77. And so I could imagine, that would be put to use pretty good. So
yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
So what else you got going on?
Well, I'm also a licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker.
All right.
The first question that I normally get from people, how are you going to work a full-time job and take care and actually serve the public? So, of course, my plan of action is to begin to work for myself full-time in that business. And because it takes about 75% of our time, if not more, to actually be a state representative.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing
I
to.
can see that. Yeah.
I'm willing to dedicate that time. And thank God I do have a wonderful husband that will also be a source of income, to help me out there. I do have a beautiful blended family of 5 children. 3 that I had before I married my now husband Isaac, and he blessed me with 2 bonus daughters.
Awesome. Yeah.
And they come down every other weekend, and so we have a big family.
Yeah.
So I love family, and it's actually a part of my platform because I really believe that the family is the background of our society, and that strong families really makes a difference.
It does. And just having that structure, I think is a big part. And then not only do you have the structure, but you have it coming from your mom and your father's perspective, because when me and my wife, when we parent, her way of doing it is different than my way of doing it. She's the mother, I'm the father, and there's certain things that she might let slide, but then there's certain things I'm just like, no ma'am, or no sir, like, nah, we're gonna revisit that. But it's still, it's needed, and I mean, it's even gotten to a point where it's so bad, it's become a statistic, and there's scientific studies out there to actually prove that is a problem. And Kizzie, when it gets to something like that, it's almost heartbreaking, because it's like, how do we as a society, go from being able to help one another and loving one another to just not even knowing your neighbors anymore? I mean, when I was growing up, you knew your neighbors. Someone moved in, like your family, you got together, you went and introduced yourself, and for real, and we stayed in the country, but you still, so when we got a neighbor, you had a little walk to do, but nonetheless, like, you introduced yourself, and then y'all, if they had kids, you became friends, or the parents would do whatever on the weekend, or however it was. And but now we don't even know who our neighbors are, and or we're losing that part of us as Americans, and it's literally heartbreaking. It is.
And actually, when you talk about the family, there are studies out there that will tell you that most of our problems go back to the broken family. Crime being high, abortions being high. A lot of people, blame the broken family, and they look towards gangs to fill in the gap. So there's a lot of issues that can actually be resolved if we focus on the family. We can't legislate it.
True.
But we can encourage it more.
That's right.
And currently our government does not do that.
No, they don't. They truly don't.
Right.
And it starts, they said it takes a village to raise, a family per se, and it truly does, even now more than ever.
Right.
More than ever, it's important, and that's why, I was one of those kids when my parents separated. Everything was good, everything was great, and then when they separated, and one moved away, so I went to Myrtle Beach. That's where I finished high school at. And like you said, with Georgia, like it was just too crowded and too fast. And so, same with Myrtle Beach, it was way too fast for me. And then plus, I was able to do things because my mom, she had to go to work from sun up to sundown.
Exactly.
And so, she kissed me before she left, and I was there. She left before the school bus came, so I would always like skip school. She would call, say, "You up?" "Yep, I'm up." And then I'd leave the house, and so it went down a bad lane or path or whatnot. And then I got back with my brother and my great grandfather, and I had to move back home because I was like, yeah, this ain't for me. And but having that structure and then it being ripped out, it seriously does change you. And I mean, and I speak like I went through it, so I know. If it's if it's not such a bad deal and your parents can still get along and still act like nothing happened, they're just not together, but they can still coexist, which is very important. I think that might help a little something, or that would have helped out. I know it would have helped me for sure, but they literally went like just night and day, North Pole, South Pole type deal. So it was, and I looked at and depended on other, outlets and people and family, and that's why I'm always talking about, like blood's not always thicker than water. It all depends on whose blood's being spilled. That's one of my sayings, and I mean that because there's a lot of people, it's like I told you when we came in with my bishop, he's like my mentor, he's like my father, he's my bishop. So he's so many things wrapped in one. And we definitely need that structure.
We really do. When my father actually would come to pick me up so that he can, build that relationship, I just felt like I didn't know him. And so that bond was never, it was never made. I would just cry so I wouldn't have to go, and then they let me get away with it instead of making me go to build that relationship. So it is much harder being in two different homes. And I see the difference with my other siblings. You know, I actually had a child out of wedlock. I actually got pregnant at a very early age, the ripe old age of 14. I had her when I was 15. Like I said, my siblings, neither one, they're in 35 and up now, and neither one has had children. So it does, you know, make a difference even in situations like that.
True.
My daughter did change my life. I don't regret having her.
That's right.
But out of that situation came one of the most profound issues of my life, and that's abortion. My mother told me, you know, I'll forgive her, but she lost her parents at an early age. She lost both of her parents by third grade, and she was raised up by her grandparents, and they sent her to college, and she felt like once she realized she was pregnant that she could not tell them where would she go. Usually your grandparents is the last stop.
Yeah, you're right.
So where do you go? So she told me that she did try to get rid of me, but it was too late, thank God. And I'm still here today. But when I did get pregnant with my daughter, that same situation came up again. You know, you're an honor roll student. They really wasn't giving me all the other options that are available today, you know, adoption and all of that. They were just saying, just get rid of the child.
Just kind of like a one and done, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, thank God, you know, when I saw her beautiful face, I just could not do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, my daughter, she wasn't married when it's like a trend, but she wasn't married when she had her first child, but she was engaged. But we knew that was no longer an option, that curse was broken.
That's right.
Because I did my research and I learned about why abortion is just it cannot be a choice for my family. And, you know, I pray that others will see how violent it is.
It is.
Yes.
It truly is. You know, I advocate, you know, to fight against that a lot. And it's a tough thing. You know, it's a tough thing. And honestly, I don't see how the people that actually do it, I'm not saying the patients, but the actual doctors, you know what I mean? Like the ones that are actually performing it can do. I just don't see it, you know. And again, being in the fire service, you know, for nearly 2 decades in FEMA, and, you know, the things that I've seen with DHS, like just from a variety of just accidents to weather, for example. You know, we get deployed a lot with FEMA, you know, with weather. And so, but, and then, you know, seeing my niece and nephew, they were murdered at a very young age, you know, 7 for my niece and 10 for my nephew. And so seeing all of that, it goes back, and you can never prepare yourself for it, you know. And when you think about, you know, a child being taken, and those that are taken, you know, that life, I couldn't imagine it. Like I couldn't, I mean, because I know how hard it is for me to still process some of the things that I've seen and dealt with, like I was just explaining. So to do this every day, I mean, that's your job. Like, I mean, I just, yeah, seriously. I mean, I would love to interview one of those people. I really would. And not to bash them, you know, because I don't like to do that, but just to openly have a general conversation of, what are you thinking? You know, or how does it think? I mean, do you have any emotions, feelings, anything? Like, yeah, that's it's
hard.
It is. Yeah. So when you sit here and with all your stuff that, you know, you like you was just telling us with your experience and stuff like that, and your family and all that. So was your family, Was they ever involved, or like were they in politics or activism, like anything like that as you was growing up?
My grandmother, my mother, we were always involved in the church.
Mhm.
So mainly community service
There you
and
go.
different things like that. There were a few, mainly like the new generation, I would say.
Mhm.
One of my cousins, she was actually the executive director over the Democrat Party.
Okay.
But her father was a strong conservative. I was like, how that happen? So, after talking to other family members, I found out that, they were really heavily involved with politics. They were, had concerns, and they realized early on how important it is to elect the right person, because they have the power to make laws, enforce laws that govern what we do day to day.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So what, like, is that what made you, what brought on the feeling, or what gave you that, that thought, that moment when you sat there and you had that talk with yourself, and
Right.
what made you want to run for office?
Okay, well, I actually gave my life to Christ. I had been going through so much in life.
Mhm.
I can't even get into all the situations, but domestic violence, different things that led me to Christ. I was like, it has to be a better way.
That's right.
But I gave my life to Christ in 2002 for a fresh start. And as I began to study the Word, instantly I was just given a passion for the political arena. I was like, where did this came from? I grew up in a Baptist church.
Yeah.
And so the first message that the Lord actually laid on my heart was, it's not about Democrats, it's not about Republicans,
There you go.
but it's about choosing godly men and women for office. Because like I said, they are the ones that are going to affect the law. And, we got to obey the law. Wouldn't you want somebody?
Exactly right.
So it came from there. I actually tried to start my own party, because when I gave that first message, my pastor did allow me to say what I wanted to say, but he didn't know what I was going to say at that time. But being in an all-black Baptist church at that time, when I said that, everybody was in shock. The first thing,
that you wanted to start your own party?
No, they were shocked that the message, is not about Democrats or Republicans.
Oh yeah, okay.
They were shocked about that. So afterwards, I remember one of the deacons coming to me saying, "You must be a Republican." And I said, "Oh, I didn't say that, but if you can assume that from the message, that's fine." But after doing my research and my homework, at first I tried to start my own party, and it was called Genesis Restoring the Foundations.
Okay.
But in the process of doing that, I kept going back to the Republican platform. Now I was comparing the two, and I was studying the Word of God at the same time. And so quickly I realized that why reinvent the wheel? Because everything I was writing down for my party, I kept going back to the Republicans Party platform.
Yeah, okay.
And so, of course, we live in a two-party stronghold.
That's right.
Even though there's several parties out there, really it's only the Democrat Party and the Republican Party that has
when it boils
control.
down to it, that's
right.
That's right.
Some of the other parties have been able to get some legislation passed, but not really, get a presidential candidate up there. So I was led in my heart just to basically start at the grassroots level.
Okay.
Learn the system.
Love that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how important it is to start at the grassroots level.
Very important.
Yes, you learn a lot, and you get a lot of say-so. You get to meet those who are elected to office. And a lot of them are very friendly.
Hey, that's the truth.
Yeah.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me, whenever me and my former colleague Jerry, we would go into the State House, and some people would be like, oh well, that person, I'm not gonna like that person, like, be careful because they're tough or they're mean, or it's not gonna be a good meeting or whatever.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, cool, you know, like, thank you, but I'll be the judge of that, you know, and that's how I've always been. And some of those meetings would literally, like, it would be a home run, and it's just like, I don't know what they was talking about, but it was the complete opposite when we got in the meeting. And so I love that, and that's why I tell people, you know, believe half of what you see and nothing what you hear.
I was about to add to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because that's the case. I always try to realize or try to understand why people will just take somebody else's word for it. Because every time, you know, somebody would say something bad about the Republican Party, I was like, let me check it out for myself.
That's right.
And it was always the opposite. And it's like that in relationships. Sometimes somebody might hate someone, but when you get to know them personally, you like, hey, that person's not that bad. So I always encourage people to, you know, you get to know people for yourself.
Do your own research.
That's right.
I say that all the time.
That's
and
right.
that's with anything. Like you say, you know, from your personal life to politics to anything. Do your own research.
Exactly.
And I feel like, you know, in today's climate, we have so many that they look to others to guide their life, you know, whether it's influencers on social media, which unfortunately there's the data to prove that there are a lot that depend on social media influencers to control their life and or, you know, to teach them how to live their life. And it's really sad when you think about it, because those people that are getting up, as they call them, influencers, you know, you're only getting a glimpse of their life. You know, you're getting a couple pictures. Those pictures are set up to make them look like, you know, they're the best ever. That's just what it is. It's not like, you know, just bam. So, and the money, the fame, first off, they have money to do stuff like that with. So whenever people try to achieve that certain look or that certain lifestyle and they can't, they feel like a failure. And then they get told that, oh, you know, well, if you ain't doing this, then you're a failure, or you're not a boss, or you're not this or not that. And it's just like, okay, well, it's easy to say that when you got $50 million in the bank. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's easy to say that you're a failure if you can't do that. They don't have the connections you do. And then, you know, the suicide rate, and that's,
oh my gosh, that's out of control.
It is, and it's, especially with Instagram. I didn't know Instagram was one of the highest platforms that, you know, people were committing suicide from, and it's because they can't reach up, they can't achieve that status of those influencers. And you know, with those followers, again, I beg them, like, seriously, you know, I'll even help them. You know, I've offered many of them to, because their points wasn't, it's just like, okay, you're reaching for stuff that's not even there, you know, and while you're reaching, I can give you literature, I can give you multiple studies, because I'm not going to take the first one, read it, and go with it. I want to see at least 3 more, you know, that way I can see how they different, and then compare the 4 and say, okay, now let me draw my own conclusion out of all 4 papers. That's how it is. But yeah, we definitely need to have more leaders out there that will actually look at what Martin Luther King did. You know, so I reference him a lot because, you know, growing up in school, every time I would do an essay, you know, about someone, you know, a leader or whatever, like him and Ronald Reagan were my 2. And, you know, what he was able to do, and Martin Luther King, what he was able to do was just outstanding. I mean, and phenomenal. And he did it. And this is why, again, he always said, in the name of the flag. You know, you look at people that cut up and act a fool today or whatever. You know, he didn't condone stuff like that, and he wouldn't condone it today. You know, he really wouldn't. And I told my bishop, you know, a few months ago, we need someone like that today.
Yes,
we do, because he was able to gather so many people together, and he did it in peace. You know, he was spat on, he was cussed. His house, you know, was being violated. His property, his family. And it never broke him, because he had God. And that's the thing. He had God. He had that heart. That's why he could stand there and just think. They didn't have, he didn't have no teleprompters. You know what I mean? So when he stood there and he spoke to you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, Exactly right. It come from his heart,
Yes.
and he was able to move all walks of life.
Yes.
And it got to be an international thing. What started on a grassroots, local,
That's right.
local level, it turned into a county, then a state, and now multiple states.
Yes.
Now the nation. Now now it's just like bam. Okay, he's known worldwide now,
Yes.
and he always did it in the name of the flag. And
A
everyone
lot of
that
people don't know that.
they don't know that, and that's why I say so. Every one of you, like if y'all don't believe it, if you go and you look, he says, "In the name of this flag, I ask you." And that's just it. That's why I feel like again we need someone like him, because he could do it, and he did it peacefully. I mean, look at the march they did. That's what 65,000, 75,000 people, something like that, and there was no violence. I mean, it's just like, come on,
Exactly.
there's multiple ways to do things, but with these followers being told, just go smash that, tear this up, do this, do that, you're forming an even bigger problem. And then when you're painted a certain picture, it's just like, okay, well, you did do that, you know what I mean? So what do you want me to do?
Right.
And it's hard, and that's again, we need a Martin Luther King. Like we need someone like him to come back and to just, because I would love to see that change, or that strength again, that unity. I guess that's what that's probably the best way to put it, that unity.
And I can add to that, a lot of people didn't know he was Republican as well. But they didn't care either.
Exactly. That's
right, because the bigger issue was at the time was they wanted to be free. And so when we can just come together as we the people and put our issues first, we can accomplish a whole lot more. And that's what they did. They were focused on freedom, and so he was able to draw that crowd. Because they knew that that's what they wanted to tackle. And we have so many issues today that both sides will agree. We might agree, to do it a certain way, and then there's some people that are just corrupt. They just want to do the opposite, just to say that they did the opposite. But so many people, when it boils down to it, will agree on the same issues, that we want just about the same things. It's a small minority that has the money, that has the power, that's been influencing the masses. And it's good if it's a good, if you're influencing the right way, because sometimes the minority can have a big effect on the majority. But if it is negative, that's, how can we let 10% change how we, our gender? Come on.
Right.
We have some serious issues, and I'm running on the campaign of politics with principles, because we have some policies that are coming up I never thought will even be discussed at the table. How can we change natural law? A lot of teachers are getting frustrated as well, because if they forget, they want us to change the English language. There, it's for for that one person, or a group of them is for more than one person, and one person now wants to be called them. And so if that teacher forgets and misses she or her, they get in trouble for that.
If not lose their job and get plastered all over the news and papers. And it's just like, come on, I was talking about that Sunday, gender dysphoria, it's literally, it has a name, so it is. It's like I said, we're catering to mental illnesses. Like we used to take it serious, and we're catering to it now.
Oh my, you just said a mouthful.
Yeah, and like Kizzie, so I've never seen teachers more concerned about teaching single-digit children about sex versus teaching them how to read a book or how to do math or social studies or anything like that. I just, like, it blows my mind. I'm like, like, why is that your top priority? That should be up to the parents. Like, you shouldn't even, And first off, the people that hired you, we need to have a look at them now, because if that's the type of people you hire, like seriously,
Exactly.
you know, it blows my mind. And it's like you say, to have the legislation that we even have, you know, the topics that are having to be brought up, and the fact that we have a Supreme Court justice that says she's not a biologist and she don't know if a man's a man and a woman's a woman. And that was a sad day for America. That was a sad day for the world. You know, truthfully. I mean, that's the highest court of the land. She's there until she leaves this world and goes on to, you know, other things. So come on, like, what are we getting at?
Exactly. You don't have to be a biologist to know what a woman is or a male is.
Think about Neanderthals. I mean, ain't none of them doctors. What, none of them doctors? I mean, come on. And they knew. I mean, I could see them now grabbing a leg and just pulling them up in the air and be like, oh, yep, okay, so there's one of you. Oh, there's one of me. You know, so, like, I mean, it's just, it's crazy, and but it's scary though.
It's very scary.
It is. So we need true leaders, you know, true patriots to come back that actually, you know, like I say, God first, country second, you know, and it's just like we have to have that. We have to get those people out that's not putting our country first, our you know, our people first.
That's right.
And that's not a selective group. I've always been against that, you know, and my slogan was from the people for the people, and that's because I was raised from the people inside those groups where you wouldn't normally see people. You know what I mean? Like I'd be the only one there, but I was treated no different. And so again, I was able to see things from so many different perspectives, and even on the law enforcement side, joining the law enforcement. You know, I went to the Criminal Justice Academy down on Broad River, and so I didn't stay the whole time, you know, but I'm a firefighter. Like that was me. And but I just, you know, I got to see so many different points of view and kind of form my own and say, okay, now I see why this takes so long, or the process of this or that. Now I see why people get the idea of profiling. I mean, because I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? And like, so it does exist. It is real, but it's just, I explained it Sunday, it's like a bag of grapes. You know what I'm saying? Like you, in that bag of grapes, you're gonna have one or two bad ones. Is that gonna stop you from buying the whole bag? No, it ain't. No. You're gonna buy that bag of grapes, and you're gonna get to those one or two or whatever, and you're gonna toss them in the trash.
Good point.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? So we need to figure out a way to find those bad grapes, pick them out, and, you know, get rid of them.
Exactly. That's what I tell everyone as well, because there are bad people in every group.
In every group.
Everywhere you go, there's going to be some bad people, because people have gotten away from self-governing themselves and, you know, making the right decision for themselves. So a lot of times we like to say that the system is broken, but it's, you know, some people who just, like in the church, we would say, you know, they're in sin, or, you know, they made a wrong choice. But we should not be blaming the whole police department because of a few bad apples. We shouldn't do that. Likewise, when you stand before the master on that big day, you're not going to be held accountable for everything that your race did. You're going to be held accountable for what you did. So my thing is, I like to tell people, don't get mad at the whole race because one person did something. Hold that one person accountable for what they did. That's what you cannot do. That's what you should do. Exactly.
For real. Yeah. I told people, you know, my ancestors, I found out they would actually hunt each other down and they would kill each other, you know, and this is what I made, like that was the Scandinavians, and then that was the English. So you had, they didn't like, because one had God, you know, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, all this and that, and then the Scandinavians, they had gods, you know, plural, multiple. So the fact that the English didn't like that, and they saw them as, you know, like devil worshippers and all this and that, because of the rituals that they did, the sacrifices they made. But then when you look at it from a Scandinavian, because I've studied my history an awful lot, and so whenever you take in the Scandinavian side, they would sit there and they would do their rituals, but then the English would have their own rituals, and it would be similar because it was like, yo, y'all are seriously doing the same thing for the same reason, just with two different names. You know, you're calling it Jesus and Lord and Savior, and they're calling it, you know, Odin and or not Floki, but you had Thor and Loki, and so it's like, okay, they're doing their thing, they're doing you're trying to achieve the same goal. But when they would go at it, they would enslave one another, they would kill, on sight. And it was just like, whoa, you know, what are y'all doing? Right. And so yeah, it's crazy. And I don't know, I've never been able to quite understand that.
I know.
And like you say, it's not my fault, so I shouldn't be punished for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I didn't have nothing to do with that, and so in somewhere some Italian got threw in, so now I'm just like, okay, I'm good, you know, I'm over here, but like we have that going on. You're taught, you know, how I see it is, you know, you have that indoctrination of one race should feel like, you know, like you said, guilty, and then another race should feel like you're being held down because of the other race being guilty or holding you down or something. It's just like, no, you know, hate, you're not born with it. You're taught to hate.
That's right.
You know, like you're taught to hate. And it's like, you shouldn't divide these people. You shouldn't divide these children. You shouldn't, because think about us being stronger together. What more could we accomplish?
Right.
You know, and the human race is so, it's so interesting, you know, the way you and I can agree on the same thing, but yet the way you perceive it and the way that I perceive it, it's not going to be exactly the same.
Right. And we have to respect that.
We do, but the ultimate goal is we agree on that one thing, you know, or whatever it is. It's like we agree. And we need to get back to that healthy part, to where we can agree to disagree. We can agree and have different point of views, and we're not looked at as, you know, whatever, or because they quick to throw a name out.
Oh yeah.
You know, and for real. And
let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I've heard so much, so from your line of work, your experience, like, tell me, you've been in the game for a minute, right?
Well, I would say that I've been blessed because I have not witnessed racism. And, you know, a lot of people around me like, what do you mean? I'm like, it has not affected me. I can't say why, but one of the things that, you know, I love America. I was blessed to do a mission trip.
Okay.
And it was life-changing. I went to the country of Haiti.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so...
I bet that was beautiful.
It was a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes you want to kiss the very ground that, you know, we stand on every day.
When you get back?
When I got back to America. Just life-changing. And I try to tell people, if you can take your child somewhere, go to a country like that. Even Jamaica has a rough side, a poor side. You know, usually people will go to the nice vacation side, but that will literally make you fall back in love with your country. America is not perfect.
By no means.
But the thing about it is that, you know, along the way, she's been rewriting her wrongs, you know, and you have to continue to let her grow. That's, you know, right. And so it seems like we've been moving backwards in this country.
I agree,
and you know, I get so sad because it seems like the narrative is that they hate America, and it just literally makes me grieve. Cause I remember being on social media one time, and one of the young ladies was like, I don't hate America, but they was making it look like, you know, everybody hate America now, you know? And so we have to be so careful not to allow narratives like that to grow.
Good point.
And so you know, there's talk about how can we get the mainstream media back in control without affecting free speech.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is that they're actually talking about them being more honest about saying, this is my opinion. Because if you be honest about it, a lot of that news is how they feel about the situation.
For sure, yeah.
95%.
They don't get fact checked.
No,
no.
But they used to back in the day. But they
That's
changed
right.
they changed the laws so to protect them for that.
That's right.
And most of the time, we don't see when they get on the news and apologize because they put the wrong story out.
Mm-hmm.
They say it one time, but then the lie is already out there. And we know that a lie can grow really, really fast.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it's negative.
Yep.
So,
and that's sad.
It is very sad.
That is. Something good and positive, a few people will find out. But boy, you got some gossip or some bad news or something like that, and let me tell you, like, you tell one person, and look here, give it an hour. Depending on what it is, give it a few minutes, and quite a few is gonna know. And it's just like, man, whenever we needed the help in the community, I wish that word would have spread that fast.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. But getting back to the question, I think I got off track. But the growing up as a Republican, when I did give my life to Christ, it was out there that now I'm a Republican. I may have voted Democrat maybe once or twice, and it was zigzag because I actually knew the person that was running, and that was before I grew into what I really know about politics now. But it's hard. I get called out of my name more by my own people, by blacks. I have never been called anything out of my name by a white person, but I've been called racist. I've been called Uncle Tom. The bullying is so hard for black Republicans.
All because of the platform you choose to run.
Right. Exactly. And that's so sad because, as second vice chair, I'm trying to grow the minorities, the minority party, and bring them on board. But it's so hard when the social pressures of this world is coming at them, and so we have a lot of closet Republicans.
and that's the truth. I've noticed that. And so let me ask you this, because when the Republican Party was founded, there were a lot of black Americans, and it was pretty much mainly majority of the Republican Party was black Americans, right? So, what do you think happened, or what do you think changed the trajectory of that and brought it over to the Democratic side? Because I threw out my theory, my opinion, and that was with LBJ when he became president.
Yeah,
I
agree.
That was my thing, and I was just like, okay, if you look at history, look at this and that, and then again, it's kind of, for me, it was kind of clear that okay, once all this stuff came out, then boom. It's like a bunch of promises, and then those promises turned into problems, and then it became generational. And then now it's with so many, ethnicities, like literally, and it's just like, come on, like it's hurting everybody. It's hurting everybody. Right. But do you think that there'll ever be a time, or how do you think that'll play out, especially seeing? Let's just take between the last administration and the current administration. So let's just take that, because we know what President Trump did for the black community.
Yes.
We know that, and that wasn't publicized nowhere near like it should. And Obama was a great speaker. He could talk. He was a great speaker.
Mesmerized the people.
Yeah, and that's the truth. Like really, he really did. And I love literature, so like I would sit back and I just love reading people's speeches. It's just great, because some things you'll understand it more by reading it and then hearing it. And so anyway, he was great with that. And so, but then you listen and you take President Trump and you take what President Obama done, and he didn't do nowhere near what the media betrayed him as doing for the community. And so, but President Trump sat there and he actually did a lot of stuff for the black community. And I was like, wow, like you would have thought that the last administration, they would be equal or more, but he seriously didn't. It's like he forgot about his own community, and it's just like, oh, what happened? You know what I mean? Like everything you ran on, like you just
Right.
which seems kind of typical. And then you have Biden right now. So to me, I feel like it's divided, and it goes back, so, and this could come into the influencers and all that, but it goes back to what do you think? I mean, do you think that the black community sees more since President Trump has left office and Biden is in office, and what's being done, and with the inflation, and I said this Sunday, give it a year from now. People think stuff's high now.
Oh my
Wait till next year.
Yes.
So it's going to be a problem.
I would say with Obama, I remember my pastor pretty much giving him a pass for not being able to help black people. He pretty much said that because he's black, he can't just fix all of our black issues. And so, well, a lot of people, the black community was looking at him as being the one that can go in and fix the issues that we believe that we had. And so now you're saying that he don't have to, and you expect the other man to do so, though. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in that. You give him a pass, but you expect the white man to fix your problems. Something's definitely wrong with that.
Yeah.
But he definitely mesmerized the people, because my church at the time, they were all on board with Bush, all of that, even though he changed up on us the last couple of years. But then after...
That was Junior, right?
Yeah, and after Obama ran, it's like they became spiritually blind. They just ignored a lot of things, and they went along with a lot of legislation that he passed, same-sex marriage and different things like that, even though we didn't agree with those things. And I just couldn't understand. I was in shock. I was confused. I was like, what's going on here?
It does. I bet it is confusing.
Well, it is.
Especially when, like you say, like you have, and when you're the bond that y'all share together, so y'all know each other, you know how you feel, y'all have conversations about all kind of stuff, and then, like you say, spiritually blinded. It's just like, oh, the wool's been pulled over my face, and I'm just gonna go now, and not even understand what. I mean, do you think that some of the stuff was even looked at, or it wasn't even researched? It was just like, okay, I don't even need to research it. If he says it, then that's it. It's good. It's true. Yeah,
a lot of that happened. And then the media again, there were a lot of black people also. I remember in California, they were protesting. They were saying he's not doing anything, but it did not get a lot of media attention because they wanted, this narrative to go on that he is the best president in the world. And it's so sad that they can control elections by what they are allowed to put out there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And it goes back to what you said earlier. Whenever you have freedom of speech, it's our First Amendment. Me and Jerry was talking about this. So, number one, that was the very first thing when they wanted to get together and put our amendments together, form our Constitution. So freedom of speech, we get that, right? But there should be a line, or there should be some kind of barrier, stipulation put up where, you can have freedom of speech, but if you are a news outlet and you're going and you're reaching millions of people, not just in America, but across the world. You know what I mean? Especially with YouTube now. You got every news channel from every country, like boom. So you should not be allowed to put out false narratives. You shouldn't. And there should be, if they find you in contempt of that, I mean, there should be criminal charges. There should be fines, And I mean, look at the time they'll give Elon Musk. Boy, like when he wanted to buy Twitter, and then he started talking and going after, the Senate, then all of a sudden they started, the IRS, DOJ started to investigate this man.
That's so sad.
And it's like, seriously,
it's criminal, what they're doing.
It is criminal, seriously. And it's like, because he has the money to blow and spend and get the truth pulled out, and that scares y'all.
It does.
And he has done more as a private citizen of the seriously the greatest country in the world than our United States government has.
Exactly.
He's done, and not saying our government has been total, whatever, but these career people that are in their elderly ages, they need to pack it up.
Right.
They need to pack it up because
Yes.
those times are over. Those times are over.
Yes.
And this is what I think the tactic is, let's just keep that wedge. As long as we can keep the people fighting amongst themselves, guess what?
Talk about that.
Yeah, then therefore that gives them a distraction, and they're allowed to go ahead and do what they need to do.
And that's what they've been doing.
Exactly right.
And we have to be so careful about that. That's why I said we have to unite as we the people, because Venezuela, they always use tactics like that to divide the country, and it starts with the red against the blue.
That's right.
And they always said, if you want to destroy a country, let them do it themselves from within.
Yep, inside out. Exactly right.
And so that's exactly what's happened. And so if you as an individual do not take the time to do your own research and understand that you hate to say it, but there's a lot of corruption that's going on behind the scenes. And you will never know if you just continue to take their word for it. You have to do your own research. And I don't mean just Google. I mean, you're going to have to go back to the old library, read some books for yourself, and look at both sides of the story.
Exactly. You have to.
Because somewhere in between there is the truth, and then go with your heart. And a lot of these things, when you truly look at both sides, you won't agree with half of that stuff.
That's right.
I saw one of our tenants came in. I was at a property helping out, and he saw, I can't remember what state it was, but they have pretty much passed a law where, people can start dating like younger children. I can't remember what state it was right now, but he was so shocked. He's like, what is going on in this world? Yeah. If you are so distracted by what they're trying to put out there, they're at the same time passing laws like this in your state that's going to affect your grandchildren one day and change how we know the world as it should be.
That's what's
so you have to pay attention to what's going on, because like with Ukraine, quickly they changed the story to get people off of that, of what really was going on. So you have to always be mindful of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yep. I sat there and on the 24th, I was giving a speech, and I said, everything that they're willing to tell you in public, they've done at least double that or more. So if they sit there and tell you that all right, we'll use Ukraine. Let's say if they said, okay, we gave them which they just did, $800 million more, right? You best believe that if they're willing to admit that here we are in a pandemic, and we're already over the $1 billion mark. Now we're going to send them another $800 million, and that was after Blinken and Austin, had the meeting. So come on, you know that they gave them way more than that. There was way more that went on, and we're talking about World War III potentially. The threat's real, and they act like it's not, but it is serious. When Joe is talking, he needs to understand, and that goes back to the last administration. The reason why Russia didn't invade then was because the president made it very clear, if you harm any American, you're going to pay a consequence. Right. And the dude was so unpredictable. They're like, man, they really did. They really did. And when you're the leader of, one of the freest countries, in the world, you have to pose, you have to be that alpha. Right. It don't matter if you're a male, female, it don't matter what it is, you have to pose that. Right. If we had a madam president, okay, it doesn't matter. She would have to still be fearless. That's and she would have to talk, because they would try it for sure then. So you have to assert that. And in certain situations, when he responded to the Syrian gas attacks or whatever. That opened a lot of people's eyes up.
Yeah.
You know, and what I love about it is he didn't announce it until after it was over. That's what you do.
That's right.
You don't sit there, get on TV and say, hey, guess what? We're going to send this and we're going to do that. And so me as an opposition, I'm sitting there, I was like, oh, okay, they just told me where they're going to be and where they're coming in. So let me intercept that. And nah, like we go and do it and then we talk about it later.
That's right.
And so we've got to have that, you know, we really do. So I just don't, I don't know, when it comes to that, I think that we should worry about, again, everybody, you know, they've pitched in a lot, don't get me wrong, but I still think that there's more work that needs to be done in America. And I think that, you know, Ukraine has been a good distraction for the southern border crisis. We've got people coming into our state. You know,
almost every state.
Exactly. You know, Governor Abbott out of Texas, he's been shipping them by the busloads to the Capitol to protest. You know, exactly.
I'm proud of him for that.
You ain't joking because, you know, but that's the stance, and it's just like, I mean, what are we doing here? When you got families that are in danger because these guys are coming through. You know, they're coming through their property. You know, they have kids, they're raping these little girls and they're putting their undergarments on trees. It's called a rape tree.
Right.
And there was a candidate, Lindsay Loomis, you know, she was on the show and she had visited there, I want to say for 6 days or 6 nights. And so she actually saw that, you know, and to hear that, like, you know, I have 3 daughters. I couldn't imagine, you know, and I just, it's sickening to think about. So, but like, what are we doing whenever the cartel feels safe enough to come up to our border and actually have a shootout with our agents at the border?
Right. Something has to be done.
It's got to be done. Yes. There's kids on top of kids in those cells, like, and Kamala hasn't gotten close to it because, and she's supposed to be leading that, but. You know, if she goes, the cameras are going to follow. And then you're going to actually see. And if you're worried about the COVID restrictions and all this and that, like there's been so many secret videos taken. And I know this personally. And you have some higher ranking officials, they've had enough. But obviously if they was to speak out publicly, they would get canned, their life ruined. And, you know, they'd probably get charged with treason or something like that. Crime against the state or whatever, but and it's got to be fixed though. So we can't help nobody if we're sick ourselves.
Exactly.
And right now America's sick.
Yeah.
You know, we need some medicine.
Take care of home.
we need to take care of home.
Take care of those borders. We can't be naive that people who want to do bad things to America is not slipping in. I mean, if you are a smart criminal or even a dumb criminal, you know that there's an open door for you to go through to cause harm. You're going to go in. So it's already been said that they're coming from all over the world, not just Mexico and those bordering countries. They're coming from all over the world. And we know a lot of people, you know, just don't mean us no good. And they're actually saying that they're setting up sleeper cells all across America. So we never know when the attack is going to happen. I heard Lindsey Graham say the other day, you know, we're right there. We don't know when. We don't know who's in our country because they're just letting them go loose.
And that's scary.
It is very scary.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, you have to go back to even the country. I mentioned the mission trip to Haiti. Even Haiti has strict guidelines of who can go in and out of their country. So what do you mean America just could let anybody in? I mean, every other country has rules. You just can't cross the border without, you know, you can't do that.
Very good point.
Exactly.
Do you think that it's a tactic that they use to gain votes?
They're trying to, but the thing about it that a lot of people that's coming over, they're coming from countries that know about socialism and communism. So they're thinking that these people are going to vote for them.
There you go, yeah.
But a lot of them like, I'll get in now. I'll use you. Like you trying to use me. And they're getting in, but there's still a lot of the Hispanic vote went up to the highest under Trump. So you never know.
That's why they was trying to tear him down in the Hispanic community. Yeah, it's crazy how they do
Yeah.
that. Like that's insane.
It
That is. So let me ask you, when it came to, and I know we started a little bit about with the party you represent, but what was it a moment? Was it a time, like, a moment in time, an event, something that you read, seen, heard, feeling, emotion, whatever? How and when did you know that you was a Republican? I know you said that, whenever the guy told you that, oh, hey, like, you sound like a Republican, but like, how or when did you know officially that, okay, this is what I am, this is who I am?
Yeah, in the process of trying to start that party was when I realized it. When I kept going, reflecting back to the Republican platform, I knew immediately that, my morals and my values aligned with the Republican Party.
So that's when it was.
That's when it was for me. And at that time, I ran as a school board candidate. I did not win, but that's okay. At the time, there were about 5 of us running, and I gave it a good shot. But they actually it was nonpartisan, but they got behind the popular person, and that person didn't even complete their term. But anyway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I also
that's
ran
never a good thing.
No. I also ran as a petition candidate for mayor in Georgetown, South Carolina. Of course, as a petition candidate, it's a whole lot more, it's not as easy. So I didn't win that either, but a lot of people, I did get my name out there during that time. But they actually used Republican, that I was a Republican against me. Because there were a lot of people planning on supporting me. So their tactic was to tell everybody she's a Republican.
She's a Republican. Wow.
Because, when they do look at me as a black woman, a lot of people will. And I have to tell people I'm running on a Republican ticket. Because they will look at me and just assume because I'm black, I'm a Democrat. And that's not true. You cannot just judge somebody by the color of their skin, how their, politics is. But that has happened a lot.
And see,
a lot. Yeah.
That actually rolls into one of the next things that I wanted to ask you or whatnot. So how difficult is it running as, a black Republican woman and the walls that, you face with minority?
It's very hard. A lot of us cry at night sometimes. Because believe it or not, your faith, your beliefs is tied to your political, what you believe political. So it becomes your life. You cannot separate politics from everyday life. It affects our school, our finances. It affects every day. So you have to be involved with politics to know what's going on. So for me, like I said, there were nights I just cried because people that I grew up with and people who knew me forever. When President Trump got into office, I was called racist, called out of my name, but you know me. So, it's like they are destroying the word racist because you really don't know what a true racist is. If you're calling me one, and not even that, they call other people that, racist, they're not true racists. I don't discriminate against anybody. I don't hate anybody. I have love in my heart for everyone.
That's same here.
Exactly.
Right.
So, in my platform, I let people know that I don't care if you come from Main Street or the side street. I am here to serve everyone. You have to have that heart. A lot of times people get in there, I don't care what party you're on, but they'll forget that, this is we the people you're serving. So you have to not just listen to your constituents on one side. You need to talk to everybody.
That's a good point.
Especially as a state representative. There's a reason why they got it for 2 years, so that we can be more influenced by the public opinion. We need to be out there all the time talking to folks, seeing what people really want, not what the news is telling us what they want.
And that's a good point. Whenever you touched on that about, not just getting one side. And that really is important. It goes back to what I said earlier. Us as it goes back to, like I say, me and you. We find something. Okay, we agree on that. But the way you perceive it and the way that makes you agree, whatever it is that makes you agree, it's going to be different than the way I perceive it and what made me agree with it.
Right.
But the end is the same. We both agree.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how we got there. We interpreted and we agreed. All right. And so sometimes, like you say, you need to be able to reach out, because you need that balance, yin and yang. Martial artists have been, so in my life, I've always been taught, it's all about balance. It really is.
Yes, it
and
is.
That's, meditation. It's wonderful, truly wonderful. And sometimes that's when I have, like some of the clearest thoughts, and like you'll feel like, man, just totally reborn. But you have to have balance. It's like I said, if you didn't have good, would you have any evil? If you didn't have gray clouds, would you have blue clouds? So you need to be able to reach across the aisle, and you need to get so many different perspectives, because something that is good might be good right here, but then if we reach across and we get that balance, then something that was good just turned into something great.
Right.
And that's because someone looked at it with a different perspective and a different point of view, and they were able to add their touch to it, and it balanced it out. And now you have something that's great, that works for everybody, not just a select few.
Exactly.
So
I remember one time where, especially social media, I used to have people who will holler and fuss. And so instead of me going back and forth with them on social media, I would call me, or let's have lunch.
There you go.
Because when we had those personal conversations side by side, like I said, majority of the time we got along, we was on the same page. So you really have to be careful, and I just encourage people to always just have that conversation, start that conversation, and it should not always be black and white, because that can can always get misunderstood as well. So, but just sitting down, looking at a person eye to eye and listening. A lot of people have gotten away from listening and truly understanding the other person's perspective, why they see things differently. And then you share why you see it differently, and then you're like, okay. So there's a lot of eye openers when you guys have that personal conversation. So it makes a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So in District 77, all right, would you let the people know what areas that cover?
It covers Blythewood, northeast area.
Okay.
Richmond, a good part of, not the whole Richmond County, but a good part of it.
So you're not too far from us then.
No.
Yeah, I'm out there in Ryan, out in Greenbrier, in the Fairfield area. So out there by the airport. Yeah. So I do a lot of work in Blythewood, so I'm always through there.
Okay.
And, down on Harsh Gravel Road. So.
But you're not in my area though, so I can't.
So what if you was to? So let's just say your top 3 issues that's going on in District 77. What would you say those top 3 issues will be?
With inflation going on right now, I want to help restore our economy. A lot of employers are really having a hard. COVID just changed up everything.
Yes, it did.
So we really have, and a group has been formed to actually look at how we can, what's going on with the workforce, because it's truly changed. I mean, they got different ways to make money now, and so employers are really begging for people to come to work. So, I really want to focus on our economy, on how we can begin to rebuild it and strengthen that. I plan to take the No Pledge tax with the South Carolina Tax Association. I'm going to make that pledge with them on Friday, because I believe, I believe that this is not the time to raise taxes.
No.
And the thing about them is, the only time you are allowed to raise taxes, you have to cut it somewhere else. So it brings balance to the picture. And South Carolina's ranked ranked 31. Somebody else might say 18. It just depends on what statistics you're looking at. But we got room. We got a lot of room to cut some taxes here and change up how our tax structure is. So I want to work with our local committees and find ways to save money for all South Carolinians.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an overgrowth? Because I've been reading, I'm in as a contractor, I've been invited to these groups like what's happening in Blythewood, those type of things pop up on Facebook. And so, which we've gotten a little bit of work. So I'm very grateful for them. And so thank you guys. So a topic that I'm starting to see more and more is farmland being taken away from people and turned into development, like basically overdeveloping is what they're doing. And so do you think that is a real issue? Because I know Blythewood has been growing for years, literally. They have been, and you catch some of them back roads and you done, you're done at a certain time. So, but do you think that is a real issue that's going on?
It is a real issue. There's a lot of rezoning talk coming up in those areas. So we definitely need to be hearing from our constituents in that area to see, because it's pretty kind of like split down the middle. We have
with those that agree and those that don't.
Right, because we have affordable housing issue right now. There's a lot of, in the real estate industry, we have, we need more homes. A lot of people now, you have to go and get somebody to sell a house before you can have a house to sell to the buyer. So there's a lot of issues with shortages and things like that. So there's a lot of people are on the table. They don't know what to do. So, we have to look at planning, future planning developments to make sure that we do not outgrow and interfere with protecting our lands and our farmlands and all of that. So it's a lot of work to be done, but I'm up for the job.
There you go. Has there been any intimate domain, like parts where that has taken place that you know of?
I have not heard, but I'm pretty sure that there may be some issues.
Yeah, I could imagine. Seriously.
Yeah.
And that's something too. Like I had to describe that to someone as Yellowstone, and they didn't know what the intimate domain was, and we were talking about that, and so I had to break it down. I was like, "You heard that show Yellowstone?" They was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Have you seen it?" I was like, "Well, bits and pieces, but I've never watched the whole thing." I said, "So if you got a general idea, that's basically what they gonna do. They're gonna say, hey, guess what? We're gonna offer you this for this land, and it's more than what it's valued at, but." If it's generational land to me, or if it's something that I want to turn into generational land for my children and their children, so forth and so on, there's no amount of money for that. Like you can't put a tag on that. So, but they will do it, and they'll say, hey, we're gonna offer you this. We're gonna do it once, maybe twice, but after that, we're just gonna take it. And now you're gonna be out of luck, and you ain't getting nothing. You're getting the bare minimum.
Right.
And they're allowed to do that, which I don't think that is.
It's not.
I don't think that's fair. It's not. It's
but
not.
they'll say if it's for public use.
That's right. Growth and all of that, and pencil pushers is what I call them. But they can whip that paper and make anything seem, like it's good. And I had a guy, a prime example. It was a wastewater treatment plant, right? And I was all for it. And because Fairfield needs we need that facility. It's costing us more to send that stuff out to process it, and we can't keep up. Our infrastructure goes back to like some portions to the 50s, and it's sad. Every time it gets cold, Kizzie, like you can tell, because the pipes start bursting in the road, so you constantly see the watermen, they work their hardest during the winter months because pipes are bursting. Boil water advisories, or they're cutting the street out, fixing this. And you think about this, that I can remember 20 years, let's just say 20 years. So that would have put me at 16 years old, all right? So even then, just seeing all this stuff take place, you know, like, okay, imagine the time, the hours, the insurance, the gas, the materials, everything that you've done paid to patch all that stuff.
You could have
already redone it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't get it. And sometimes, you know, it just, I do sit and wonder, you know, I sit and wonder, like, what is the real, you know, what is the real end game here?
Right.
Like, is this something that some of yous play like almost like a video game? You know, some people actually play a video game to live into that fantasy, and then their psyche, that's how they go in life, and they act the way that they do because their psyche allows them to sit there and put on that persona of that video game. So I literally think with some of these people, they get in these positions and then that position goes to their head, and now they think that first off, they're untouchable.
Right.
Second off, they could do whatever they want and not answer to anyone. And it's like, oh, don't question me.
Right.
You know?
That's why I believe in limited terms, because I really do believe that a lot of people go in with a good heart, but then later, even myself, I can tell you that you have special interest groups coming at you left and right. I just got in this race. And so, you know, just imagine someone who's been there term after term after term. You know, eventually these people may begin to weigh them down. And they do, you know, buy into the bribes and different things like that. So I actually do believe in term limits. I believe that.
I like that.
And not only that, fresh ideas, you know. So we have some people who have made professional careers out of this. And there's other places you can go. You can move around. You know?
Can. Look at Biden. I mean, the guys, you know, Pelosi, you know, these are career people.
Right.
And they're everywhere, but there should be, you know.
And they're rich now.
Very, very rich, very rich. And I think that's why they don't want to let it go. I don't think that they actually care for the people or the Constitution. I think that they try to use every loophole they can.
They lost their way.
Exactly right. And they got focused on the money, you know, and that's what money does. You know, it attracts the worst and corrupts the best. And that's why I don't like it. Like, I truly don't. And when, you know, Jerry, he hears me say that all the time, you know, but I'll donate whatever I can, seriously, I take care of my family. And, you know, we're gracious enough to where everything we have, you know, I've been able to pay for. And so, like, we own everything. And so you have your bills, your lights, your cable, you know, stuff like that. But other than that, I don't need it, you know. I don't. It's not something that I think about. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for the work that God blesses my companies with. Like, very honored, very grateful, and then the opportunities. You know, that just like sitting down talking with you. You know, I get more enjoyment like out of just talking to people and understanding their side and their point of view and their perspective on life and just politics and just everything in general. And you know, I don't get paid for this. But it means more to me, seriously, than some paying jobs. And that's just the truth. It is. And so money, it comes and goes. It's always going to be there. You know, but it's also a way to control people. You know, it truly is. And they'll teach you about money, but they won't teach you about wealth. And I try to go around, seriously, I try to go around to young kids and teenagers. Not young kids, but I say, you know, teenagers going in, you know, preteen teenagers in that way, because I was that child. And so I can see myself in them, and I'm like, yo, you know, if you can step in and you can help, then do what you do, and I will. And so they're thinking they got to make that dollar, they got to hustle, they got to do this, they got to do that. And I was like, yeah, man, I used to do the same thing, like, but you know, I was worse, you know. Or I did it on the pool table, you know. I got a pool stick right in that room in there, and you know, I was 14, 15 shooting pool, and that's how I would, you know, get my food that night. That's how I would get clothes and shoes and things like that. Because my mom was in Myrtle Beach, my dad was in Fairfield, but he had another family. So, you know, I was again with my brother, and like I say, my great grandfather, And you know, it was just one of those things. So I could sit there and spot that out, and I talk to them, not at them, and they relate, because they're like, yo, this dude, like, he really understands. And so we have to get that, and we have to spot that. And I get so wrapped up when their mind is all they focused on is making that money so they can post an Instagram photo. And I'm like, look, you know, like, seriously, like, look, you want to sit here and post that picture, and these people see that, all right, and you know that they act a fool just like you do. So now you just put yourself and your family at risk,
right.
Because whether you flexing and it's real or you flexing and it's fake, either way,
Right.
they ain't gonna know the difference. And they're gonna come to your house and they're gonna try to rob you. They're gonna try to break in. They can shoot your house up, whatever the case may be.
That's what's happening.
That is what's happening. And so we have to teach them about wealth, not money.
Right.
You know, money is money. It comes and goes. You can make money any day of the week. But wealth, it's something that you have to generate.
That's
you have
right.
to build. It's
That's
like
right.
it's like a plant. Starts out as a seed. You nurture that plant. It sprouts, it roots, and then it starts to pop up, and then it blooms and blossoms into something really nice. And over the years, all you got to do is keep pruning that tree and taking care of it, and it's gonna keep growing and growing and growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger throughout generations of your family. And that's how I try to train my children when it comes to money. You know, don't ever value money. Take, you know, like, not say like don't disregard it, but don't let that rule you.
Exactly.
You know, because you go out in the woods and you spend 3 or 4 nights by yourself, which, you know, me and my son, like, we do bushcraft camping. That's what they call it, bushcraft. So, like, we'll go off our goal is to hit the Palmetto Trail within a year, and we've already hit a good portion of it already. And so the last one we did was from Peak to Prosperity, and so we went across the Broad River, and it was amazing, 4 nights. And but we don't stay on the trail, you know, because I take a satellite phone, and, you know, we ping the location, boom, so we know where the trail is. But we go into the woods and we get off the trail, because, for one, all your people that are hiking, and, you know, the Palmetto Trail is pretty famous. So, I mean, you might find people from Georgia, you might find people from North Carolina, like, you never know who you're gonna run into. And so, anyway, if you get off the trail, you kind of give yourself more safety, because you're not on that main path and you're out in the woods. So, you know, you can set up your kind of safety net, your security, you know, your little, I call them bushcraft alarms, you know, but your little, you know, you secure the area with string and little devices to let you know. I mean, they little solar panels, but they'll let you know if something's coming. They'll set off a little alarm. And that's what we do. And we go out there with just minimal amount of stuff. You know, you take what you need to hunt, you take what you need to fish, and you go out there, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you live and you bathe, you do everything the way that people used to do.
Yeah.
And you don't miss it, you know, because your cell phones,
skills.
exactly, but your cell phones, like, they're out. I've been to one part, and it's right when we first made it to the Broad River section where the train track was on the Palmetto Trail. So off of 213 by the VC nuclear plant. And once we got to that portion, the phone bar, like, it had came up. And so I was like, okay, cool. You know, and we got stuck on the Broad River because it was a real bad thunderstorm with a tornado warning. I was like, oh, Jesus, you know, like, I got the video, and it was about an inch from actually coming over the guard and washing into the tent. Like, oh yeah, we were locked down and stuck. But, you know, so we've got to experience different, you know, climates in the woods or whatever. But it just shows you how you can survive like that. And then you come back home and you're like, man, I got everything. I got lights, I got water, you know, I got electricity. I mean,
appreciate
I can do all that. Yeah, for real. You really do appreciate it more. And so again, those are simple things that we can do in the community. Hold these workshop classes. You know, teach the people, and again, and even with seniors. You know,
see, one of the things that President Trump at the time, he was trying to reverse or repeal the Johnson Amendment, because he wanted to give the power back to the church, the voices back to help their community, because there was one time, particularly the Black church, that was the political office the church was, and so it was the place where everybody came to learn of who should we be getting behind and all of that. But of course, Johnson introduced that Johnson Amendment so that the church, in order so they won't lose their taxes, they couldn't endorse candidates and different things like that. And so
it's just a tactic.
It's a tactic to quiet them, silence them, so that they lost their power because of that. And so even though some people may try to push the lines, and the IRS picks on who they want to pick on, it's still a lot of people scared. But I do believe that communities, the church, really can do a much better job than the government ever can when it comes to restoring communities. When it comes to defunding the police, of course, we do not agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
They need more money.
They do.
And along with that, I also believe that not only, a lot of people are blaming the police for everything and they need more training, but we as individuals need more training as well, because parents need to step up and teach their children how to act in certain instances like that. But they will shy away from it, and they will say that we shouldn't have to teach our children. But if you don't teach them, who will? And so it's out of control. But most cases can be resolved if the church has the power back. The parents have their power back to truly parent, and we can reverse a lot of these things if we get back to normalcy. Exactly. And so that's my thing too. I want to bring back common sense policies back to the table, give the power back to the community.
There you go. Yeah. I love that. Seriously. And when you said let the parent,
yes,
that's what it's like. That's what I tell my kids, or like my father, for example. He's like, why are you so hard on him? I'm like, man, ain't you the one to be talking? Like, do you remember when you was around? Like, what you, like, exactly. What? So, but, it's not me being hard on them. It's, again, me wanting them to succeed. Right. Now, my daughter graduates, and we're very grateful. Her Midlands Tech, she'll graduate technical college because she's in the STEM program, May the 6th, I believe. And then she'll graduate high school in June. So she'll graduate, with an associate's degree from college, and then a high school diploma. And so,
awesome.
All of them have, seriously, like, they've been above, and like, I was the wild child. My wife wasn't, so I don't know if that was that balance we were talking about earlier, because they got a little bit of that spiciness, and then they got that calm, and I'm just like, I don't, but I'm good. But again, there's just things that they know we're going to check this box first. Before we even start to work on this other stuff. Exactly. Because these are priorities, these are necessities, and the others are wants. They're not needs. They're not, they're nice to have, but we're going to fix this first, and then we're going to stay in check. And if that means people say, oh, well, you hard on them, like, no, so there's no social media, there's none of that. And the reason being is because of the influences and all this and that. So I've always encouraged them, don't listen to daddy when it comes to certain things, and I'll sit them down, because they all, my youngest, she's a preteen, so she'll be 12 this year. Okay. And so they'll be 12, 14, 16, and 18.
That's your hands full.
Yes, ma'am. And they all born May, June, and July too. So
sound like mine, May, June, and July.
For sure, yeah. And so it's something else, and and that's like, with my oldest one graduating, and I've told, my guests all the time, I turned 18 in April the 22nd, and she was born July 19th.
Wow.
So I went from, doing what I did in the streets and living the life that I lived to being a father, and it was just like, whoa, like time, it was, because I could have easily, my friends, people I thought were my friends, all right, people I hung out with, broke bread with, like we were brothers, but they would come and they'd be like, oh, yo, let's go out. We're gonna go to the bar, we're gonna shoot pool, or we're going to Columbia, we're going to, spin records. There's one of my old mixers, but like, so I would DJ, hip hop and break beats and things like that. And so I was good at producing and making beats. And so I'd take my turntables and, my records, and that was what I did.
Okay.
And so once my wife had that baby, they would come down, they'd be like, yo, B, let's go. And I'm like, nah, man, I can't do it. I was like, but if y'all want to kick it and chill for a little bit, we can have a beer, smoke a cigar, like whatever you want. Like we can do that, and PlayStation, I think PlayStation 2 had just dropped or something, so that was still fresh.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, if y'all want to play, whatever you want to do, like we're good. And they're like, nah, man, like we're gonna go out. Why don't you go? And like Jessica's got the baby. And I would stop, and and it made me think. And like these was my boys, so like I had to ask them. I'm like, look, what makes her any different than me? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like because she's a woman, and because she gave birth, she's the mom. She's new at this too. Last time I checked, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's her first child. So we're both learning here.
Right.
And I had to take those trips, and I had to turn them down, and I had a choice. And I could have easily said, okay, Jessica, I'm gone. I'll be back.
Right.
But that, it was just, first off, to be able to hold that baby, and she was very premature. She was supposed to be born in like the middle of September, and she was born July 19th, and my wife was in labor for 7 days. So so she was very premature. She was a little teeny old thing, like you could hold her like this. And so I would sit there, and that was one of the reasons I didn't want to be like, seriously, she slept on my chest every night, every single night. And even when she come out, like the NICU people, they had her, the intensive care people for the premature babies, and and then after, I don't know, close to like 8 to 10 hours, they were like, hey, she don't have to stay, she can come down. Do you want her to go in the nursery? And I was just like, no, like bring her here.
Yes.
And because I just turned 18, I was freaking out, so like I wanted to hold her, and but I couldn't leave her, you know what I'm saying? And then trying to learn how to be that parent. And again, that's where I think, some of the decisions, they always say, the best decisions are always the hardest to make, and that's the truth. And that was one of those times when I know we would have had a great time, like I'd have threw the records on, like it would have been a blast. But then having those moments of spending time with my family, that right there, that was more important, because I was able to grow, and I was able to learn more about what it takes to actually be a provider, and then I had, like I say, my great-grandfather and my brother to look up to as role models. And then, so it truly helped. And with her going away, to college, she's going to North Carolina, and I'm just like, man,
have a hard time.
I truly am, because, and she's the first, like I say, and so having that, just having that firstborn, and like I say, you love them all the same, but each one of them has a different place. Like so, me and Alyssa, who's my oldest, there's things that we do. That's just mine and her thing. You know what I mean? And then there's things that me and Kelsey. That's my say that she does, because that's my girly girl. Like, oof, when I say it costs some money, like. She's the one, huh? When they say, man, like, how do you have time to run that company? That I'm like, look here, if you met my second daughter, you'd figure it out. Like you ain't got no choice. But she's, hair out of place, like sit there, sleep with it all done up, and I mean it's just nails, toes, the whole 9 yards. For sure. That's my girly girl. And so, but every one of them, like I say, there's things that me and her can talk about. And so it's just, it's a wonderful experience.
With every child.
It is. It is. And it's a wonderful experience, and it goes back to what we said earlier about people taking that. It's just, I don't think that, I just don't think that, I don't know if it's scary, I don't know what it is, but to experience that and to hold that and to know that's you. That's something no one can take.
Yeah.
God's the only person, and He doesn't take them because you'll be reunited one day. You know, so
right. Children are a blessing.
They truly are.
My daughter truly changed my life. I had to wake up. You know, I had to step up really fast. You know, having her at 15, and it made me a better person. You know, it helped build character in me, and you know, it was 8 years later before I had my next child, and I was married at the time, but still, you know, my mother at the time, she pushed me. She wasn't the one that would say, you know, I'll keep the child while you still run the streets, and then I end up getting pregnant again or something like that. No, she was like, that's your responsibility. And so you're going to take care of your child. And so I was blessed to still be able to graduate a high school with honors, and you know,
congratulations. There you go.
I believe I would have been higher, but I graduated number 14 out of like 215. Wow. So you know,
That's
I still did pretty good to have my baby there. So she was just life changing. Yeah. All my children just life changing. Yeah, children are a blessing. Families are a blessing. I mean, we can't survive without them.
You're exactly right. And so I imagine that kind of gives you a lot more fire and energy, because when you look at your children, your family, you know that, hey,
you want to fight for them.
This is what I'm fighting for.
Yes.
When you go home every night, and you look, it's always a constant reminder.
Right.
You know, that's what it is for me. They say, B, what makes you do what you do? And I said, my children and my children's children.
Yes.
And their friends and their friends' children,
that's
like
right.
Generations again, and that's what we need. We need to bring that spirit back, and you know, good always overtakes evil, and that's history has proven that. You know, we are being faced, I think, Kizzie, with one of the most challenging times that this world has ever seen. I mean, you know, look what's going on across the world. I mean, we have people signing up to join the military just for a sex change, because you know the United States military will pay for it. And it's like, okay, so if I don't have the money to transition, all I have to do is go sign up, and then I identify, and now the government, people like you and I, taxpayers, and every one of y'all that pays taxes, they sit there and they're paying for that sex change. And when they get that sex change, they're allowed to just hang out and recover. So they don't have to send a doctor's note. They don't have to do any of that. We're in a very bad spot.
We are.
You know, and if you look at a lot, and I challenge you guys to go look at, you know, civilizations in the past that was wiped off the earth, you know, are just decimated. And a lot of them have one thing in common, and that was gender identity. That's a fact. You know, they seriously, and you're talking some of these civilizations ruled the world. Like, I mean, they ran everything.
That's the first thing the enemy attacks, is who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you can't be who you are, who you were called to be. So you have to be mindful of the enemy's tactics at this hour. And that's what he's doing, is causing mass confusion. And that's what we go back to, mental illnesses, because that, I mean, you have to know who you are. You really do.
You do. So is there anything that you want to leave your supporters with when it comes to District 77, or just the people in South Carolina in general? You know, like, I mean, your platforms, do you have some key points that, you know? Well,
I love South Carolina. Like I said, when I try to move away, I end up coming back. I love America. I will do all that I can to help save America. Like I said, my campaign slogan is politics with principles, because I truly believe that it's going to take deep morals and values to get us out of this mess that we're in. And so because of the situation that I was put in as a child, almost aborted, almost had to abort my daughter, going through domestic violence. I'm a fighter, and I will fight for my constituents in District 77, I want to hear your concerns, and I want to know what you need, and what you really, what you care about. So I'm here to serve. I'm just here to serve. I learned that lesson a long time ago, that we cannot be who we are unless we're actually serving others.
Amen.
And so I always had, is from my great grandmother all the way up, everyone was always giving, sharing, and that's me, and inviting. It's my passion, just to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
I've seen it literally.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling Jerry Sunday, even on the episode where we were just announcing what we had going on, and but the first time, I don't know if you remember, first time we met was at the Silver Elephant Gala.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Pompeo was the keynote speaker, and we were seated at the same table.
Yeah.
And that was the first interaction we ever had. And then, you know, you come and spoke at Fairfield, and then it was just like, oh, okay, you know. So yeah, and then I seen that though, and then to you know, research you and see the work that you've done and the work that you've put in, not just for your own, you know, area, but like statewide.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, you're the second chair
Yes.
for the state Republican Party,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that's phenomenal. Seriously, it's phenomenal. And so we know that you got the leadership qualities. We know you have the honor. We know you have the integrity. We know you love the Constitution.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yes.
District 77, you guys, I mean, you have the total package right here.
Yes.
And it's time, if you want change, which I'm sure a lot of you do, like, I mean, look no further than Kizzie Smalls. You know, her track record proves it, and that's all you have to do, you know, is just look it up. And like you say, any questions, I mean, I've never seen her shy away from anything being asked. So it's all about respect too, though. So you know, you have to keep that in mind. And I feel like sometimes, you know, even me, you know, I have a critic, you know, have one thus far that's been public, you know, and I'm gonna tell you, I was so happy, Kizzie. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I got my first critic, like boom, yeah.
You're doing something now.
For real, you know. And so it's like, yo, you know, you can call or comment or do whatever when it's only negative. And I've invited him on the show so many times, and he declines it. And I'm like, well, dude, like, don't call my phone, you know, or any of that, but like, let's come on the show and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And so if you want to sneak it through a text message, like, come on the show and let's put it out there for everybody. Just have a good, healthy debate. And that's all it is. But he refused, you know. So yeah, and that's, we need more of that, you know. And yeah, we, you know, that the one tomorrow I'll be the mediator for, and you know, my production company, like I say, Peaks Production Incorporated, we're going to sponsor it, or we are sponsoring it, and Moms for Liberty. And so it's going to be amazing. And we have Democrats, Republicans, and Green Party candidate, you know, for Superintendent of Education, and it's the first one that has been held in the state. And yeah, so there's some nerves going on, and
come on down.
you know, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yes,
Look at here, it's at 7
good.
p.m., guys, at Life Springs Worship Center. So yeah, come on down, and you know, it's open to the public, and know your candidates. That's all I can say. You know, is don't take someone's word for it. Take your own word. Do your research. And so, do you have your platform, Kizzie? Your website?
Yes. Just want to also say that I am a true conservative. I am pro-life. I am pro-Second Amendment. I am for limited government. I'm for, you know, making sure that we keep taxes low for all South Carolinians. And just that physical responsibility. We have to make sure that we are watching the dollars for all South Carolinians. And so my website is Vote Kizzie, Kizzie Smalls.com, or you can email me at vote4KizzieSmalls@gmail.com.
Gotcha. And what we'll do is we'll take those and we'll put them a link in the description. So you guys, you know, you can just click on the link and it'll take you straight to it. And they can also donate once they click on the website, the Vote for Kizzie.
Yes.
Yeah. So all donations, guys, you go straight to that. And once you click on the link, read through, you know, learn a little bit about Kizzie. And like I said, there's a donate button right there. and you'll be surprised a little bit. Every little bit adds up,
Yeah,
and so
it helps.
it truly does.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have someone that's got a proven record and is willing to fight and put into work, we need to help our true conservatives and our true patriots get in office so we could see the change that we so desperately need and that we're asking for. There's no other way to do it but to help put people like yourself in office.
I will also say that we can see the finish line, but at this moment in history with everything that's going on, we're going to have to push even harder. Last year you may have only knocked on 50 doors. This year you may have to knock on 150 doors.
Good point.
You're going to have to make more calls. You're going to have to give more. If you really want to see change take place, people are hurting with inflation and the supply chain issues going on. We need change immediately.
Yes, we do.
In order for us to change the course of this nation, we have to take a stand now. And I meant to bring one of my good Mark Lennon's poem to share with your audience tonight, but maybe you have to bring me back when you have time.
Oh, for sure. You're welcome anytime. Seriously. And it was an honor, to have you on this evening. Like, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you taking the time to stop by, literally. And again, I thank you for all your work you do across the state for everybody. And, District 77, like you guys, I mean, this is your next representative, so get behind Kizzie Smalls. And again, just thank you. And it's been an honor. It really has.
Same here. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be on this platform. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. All right, guys. Well, that was Kizzie Smalls. And like I say, she's running for House of Representatives in District 77. We appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you for listening to podcast 1854. And again, April the 28th, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Life Springs Worship Center on Platte Springs Road, the South Carolina Superintendent of Education debate. So, come on by. It's going to be good. And thank you. And, you heard it here first, South Carolina. Stay safe, hug your family, kiss your babies. Be sure to like and share and subscribe to this video, guys. Have a good one.